Let's talk about Kaapo Kakko. Let's talk about Will Borgan. And let's talk about the New York Rangers. The roster's freeze. I believe it's tonight, is it not? Or is it yesterday?
It's already frozen.
It's already frozen.
Yeah, it's Thursday at 11:59.
Okay. So we will get no more trades, but we will get Will Borgan.
I thought it was tonight.
Playing actual minutes for the New York Rangers, which they seem to need. Kaapo Kakko, it was funny to listen to the Chris Johnson show on the way in. Chris was like, them saying that, or getting out there that Kaapo Kakko's comments about being scratched before his last game, they didn't really have anything to do with the trade. And Chris is like, well, I wouldn't say it necessitated the trade, but it's not like it didn't have something to do with the trade. And some of the trades that are now leaking out, some of the proposals that were in front of the Rangers last season for Kakko are a lot better. Not that Will Borgan's bad, because we can talk about him in a bit.
That's an all right deal.
Yeah, but it could have been a lot better.
It could have. It's just difficult, though, because you're trading a guy off your roster who I thought he was useful during the playoffs. I liked his game. I couldn't understand. That's not true. I could understand. He was picked second overall, and you want him to play like a player who's picked second overall. But I was watching him. I think he was on the third line and going, this is a really effective player. Like, he's annoying. He hunts down pucks really well. He's not going to score a ton, but he's found his niche on the Rangers and he's effective. So yeah, it would have been nice to get those packages for sure, but they didn't know they were going to be hot ass. Like, the Rangers need to not rebuild on the fly, but let's say some of the older players heading into the season take a step back. Well, who do you expect to take a step forward? I would expect Alexi Lafreniere to take a step forward. I would expect Kaapo Kakko to take a step forward, and so on and so on and so on. So you want him to take on some of that load. The packages were better for him last year, but
They were good last year.
they tried to make it work.
Yeah.
They tried to make it work. This Rangers situation is not common. Like, it's not usual. It's not a team that was bound to fall off and bound to stink, holding on for too long. It's a really, really, really good team that's fractured right now. It's an emotional thing. I think it's an emotional problem with the New York Rangers, which is why, we keep betting on them to figure it out at some point, or at very least not write them off, because it just feels like a fool's errand to bet against a team that did so well literally just months ago.
Yeah. With Kakko, it's very apparent that the Chris Drury isn't a fan and was never a fan of Kakko and his game, and is generally disappointed in what happened, because with him being the second overall pick and how he's played, because he became GM in 2021, but before that he was assistant GM. So he didn't make the draft pick, but he's been in the front office since that pick's been made. So he's seen this kid from the inception of his career as a New York Ranger till now. And Gerard Gallant, when he was there, he gave Kakko a run. Like, the kid line that they had peaks, it was really good at some moments. You saw sparks of brilliance when they were all together. And then when Laviolette came in, it was very apparent that he echoed the GM sentiments and was also not a fan of Kakko. And that's when you saw his time diminish. That's when you saw like this past weekend when he received the brunt of the punishment for the team playing poorly, which didn't make sense. And Kakko in his tenure as a New York Ranger never averaged over 15, 30 average ice time in a season. His average ice time has only gone down the last 2 years. And for that type of player, he's better than that. He deserves a bigger chance here. And it's disappointing for the New York Rangers to wind up with a second round pick that turns into a third pair defenseman, and a couple of draft picks.
Second overall pick.
What did I say?
Second round.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, second
I was like,
overall
they didn't even
pick.
get that in the trade.
Second overall pick that turns into a third pairing defenseman for them. But it's for Kakko, it's a bright spot because he gets to go play a top six role in Seattle. We saw it last night, and he gets to try and show everybody what he tried to prove in New York.
Now, how would you feel if your team got a player that was once called the best player not playing in the NHL.
I'd be excited.
Wayne Gretzky.
You'd be excited.
I'd be like, man, I can't wait to see Jonas Gustafsson playing for the Leafs.
Yeah.
So the best player not playing in the NHL. What if I told you that player then came to the NHL
Okay.
and he's got a career high of 41 points?
Who's this?
No. Okay, fine. I'll just tell you. It's Eli Tolvanen. Eli Tolvanen was a really, really coveted piece for the Nashville Predators for a long time. And he came to the NHL and he didn't really do much. And then he ended up in Seattle. And you know what? He didn't look like a guy who was previously the best player not in the NHL, but he turned into a really effective NHL.
He's having a decent year. Like
He's a good player.
Yeah.
Like, he's not elite. He's not what we all thought he might be, but he's really good for the Seattle Kraken. They need people to score for them badly, and he helps provide that. I wonder if Seattle's looking at Kakko going, this is the next one. This is our next good bet on a once highly sought after player who just needs the chance.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good bet to make, especially for Borgen, who they're not going to bring back. Like, he was always this season going to be a trade deadline move where either they're in a position to sell or a position to buy, but he's going to be one of the pieces going out the other way because he's a UFA coming up and they don't need him now that they have Brandon Montour on that right side. He just got pushed down. He's been playing less minutes this whole season. So for a free piece that you're always going to move to get a hope and a prayer on Kakko that he can be something else, it's a good move for them.
It's a hope and a prayer, but like, even if he never becomes better than he is, a lot of second round picks never become as good as Kaapo Kakko already is.
Second overall picks or second round picks?
Second round pick.
Oh, okay, because he was traded for a second round.
No,
let's
he was traded for a third and a sixth.
Oh, well, there you go. A lot of third round picks never become as good as Kaapo Kakko is, and sixth round picks especially.
Oh, yeah.
So I really like the bet for the Kraken. I think I like this trade for the Rangers more than most people. It's underwhelming.
The trade, like, this was the reason that it's come due for Kakko is the same reason that Borgen had to leave Seattle, is that Kakko needed a new contract. This was the year where things are due now. We need to either sign you because you're an RFA to some sort of long-term deal because you're going to be a UFA after that, or we move on. And that's why there's a decision to be made for them.
I think Borgen's a good player. Like, the Rangers, it's funny. This is exactly what we were talking about last show, is they've made a couple subtractions. They haven't added. This is them sort of plugging the gap left by Jacob Trouba. Like, was Jacob Trouba worth $8 million? No. But he wasn't so bad that you can take him out of the lineup and expect to be better by just replacing him with whoever the hell. Adding Borgen in there helps the team now. Getting a couple draft picks is better than a kick in the pants. Like, it's not a terrible trade for them. It's just not nearly as good as the ones they could have.
It's not a terrible trade at all in terms of the actual what happened here from the players swapping. Like, I like that they got the third and the sixth, and for Kakko, who's been half a point a game his all career, if it was just that player. But in the context of the Rangers as a whole, and the history and the infighting and what it could have been from a second overall that. It's disappointing for the fan base, to see this kid leave.
It's disappointing for the fan base, and if you're Chris Drury, it's also spilt milk. Like, you can't waste time. And here's what they have now. So they still have leftover cap space from the moves that they've made, and now they have some assets. Like, if I was Chris Drury, those picks would be burning a hole in my pocket. I'd be getting them out the door as fast as I can. How can I add to this team? Because the Sens are doing great. But if I'm Drury, I'm looking at the Eastern Conference standings, and I'm going, the thing keeping my hockey team, my President's Trophy Final Four hockey team, out of the playoffs right now is the Ottawa frickin' Senators. No. Yeah, their goalie's good. We have Igor Shesterkin.
Right.
Like, we have to make the playoffs this year. And with all the heat that he's taken this season, like, I think it'll be quite the feather in his cap if he can turn this around.
I think all the credit should go to the players.
Yeah, but like, is it Last show you were talking about how like it's the players who need to pull their socks up.
Yeah, and I hope they do it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing about a team. I think it's a team effort, right?
Yeah.
It's all of them, right?
Borgen, if Jacob Trouba made $2.7 million and was an upcoming
He'd still be a
UFA
Ranger.
this season, he'd be the greatest defenseman ever for this team. Borgen fills that gap at that price, so it's a good move for them, especially with Keandre Miller being out. Looks like a little while here. They got a defenseman to plug that hole.
I think there are some teams apparently that were upset that Borgen's off the market, that they were going to wait and see how things happen until like after Four Nations and then try to make a trade for him. And so
Yeah, they jumped the queue.
Yeah.
It was smart.
He's kind of good for a team that doesn't actually know what they are. Because if the Rangers turn it around and Borgen's a part of it, great. Hooray. If they completely stink and they end up selling at the deadline, well, there's some more free
You
picks.
get double value for it.
Yeah.
You get the picks and then you trade him. You get some more picks.
You could probably get it. I mean, if he does well, he can't play like ass, but like if he does well, he's a right-handed shot, is he? Oh boy, right-handed shot.
And he had a really good season last year with Jamie Oleksiak. They played like a ton of minutes together in Seattle, and he just got pushed out by Montour. But he's very useful.
That's automatic second-round pick, pretty
Right?
much. Like, what did Lyubushkin go for last year? It was like a third and a fourth or something.
McDavid.
McDavid for Lyubushkin.
They got McDavid and Hyman. Like, yeah, I'd like the bet for the Rangers. Yeah, you wish you got more for Kakko, but spilt milk.